forces you to change, or you can never get past the first stage, right? It is what it is. That's why I keep telling y'all, tap the screen, but don't share the live. I don't want everybody in here. I had to block hella people today. Weird ass people. I don't know where the hell they came from. People I ain't never seen in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? Like, who the hell are y'all? I don't want a lot of new friends. I got 80,000, I'm good. I don't want a whole bunch. Y'all know what I mean? You feel me? Huh. My son talking about, yeah. He said, yeah, daddy. Right. Yeah. For now, the philosophers say dissolve the thing and sublimate it, and then distill it, coagulate it. Come on, man. Y'all see that? Do y'all see that? Coagulate it. Welcome, man. What's going on?
Welcome. I'm just listening in. I just got off work and been listening for a minute, so I just appreciate the you dropping this wisdom.
Oh yeah, man. How you feel about what you've been hearing? It's good.
Oh yeah, always good.
Yeah.
It is always good when it's in depth. It's good. Still waters run deep, So this ain't for everybody, as you said.
Yes. Indeed. You know, the more I learn, the more I'm like, yeah, I get it. I could see why some people try to destroy it. I could see why some people try to hide it. All of it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does, and that's what the church didn't want, right? You couldn't have something where everything made sense because that brings everybody back together, which was the golden age, is when there were no names as ethnicities, names, boundaries, right? These things didn't exist.
Exactly. All the separation, man, is crazy. And I started to realize that I'm convinced that it's just about righteous and virtuous souls, man. It ain't about nothing else.
I agree. I think as a male, you have either a mother wound or you have a feminine connection based upon your astrology that does allow you to tap into Sophia easier than your average male who is got a different sun sign, different moon sign. It's because it isn't just for everybody, and it doesn't pick or choose. You know what I mean? It's all you incarnate into a body, but that energy, that light, that angle had a purpose to come here.
Hell yeah. And they made me a Cancer sun and a moon.
And that's fucked up, but you know what I mean? That's the summer solstice. That's when the sun shines the brightest. But that's where the crab walks left and right. You're not pushed backwards. You're not moving forwards, but you're not pushed backwards neither. You stand your ground, right? And that's what a crab does.
Hell yeah. And then I got a Libra rising, so shit. I appear balanced to the world. You know what I mean?
But Libra is the most intelligent zodiac sign in the chart, so you got that for you too.
Hey, look, shout out to me. You know what I'm saying? God dang. You feel me?
Let me hype you up a little bit more, my dude.
Hey, look, I take all compliments. You feel me? You know, I'll never stop anybody from telling me I'm great. I'd be a fool.
Right?
I'd be a fool if I did that. You know, shit.
Yep. No, I mean that's you know what I mean. Like the Leo, the Lion, you know, the five. It's all about understanding these, you know, these wisdoms, as such as for Freemasonry. You know, the original carpenter is Jesus and his teachings. Freemasonry has taken his tools and turned it into a society, right? But it all goes back to this grand architect of nature, and that's what squaring the circle is. That's why a keyhole is a circle with a triangle in it. The triangle hitting the middle point of that circle. Look at it, old school keyhole. That's exactly what it is. It's alchemy. It's understanding the circle and the triangle. And you know, this is the higher mind and enlightenment. This is why the key is the matches the musical board of the piano, and it also matches the Far East. You know, Chinese and Tibet, where you have chi with the prana that flows within your life force.
The square and the circle, right?
The alchemy, the square and the circle, the triangle, right? It's all, it's the physical, you know, the spiritual, and then the mental, the higher mind, right? And so the square is the physical. Then you have the triangle, which is the spiritual, the, you know, etheric. But then it taps into that circle, which is the spirit, the all encompassing, the mother, the Sophia, the Diana. It's that circumference of the all, the magnetism of the woman.
I don't know if you can see my screen, but I pulled up a depiction of what you're talking about for all the people in the comments.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because not everybody has heard the.
Yeah, I mean, this is that hermetic. You know, this is another form of understanding the Trinity of mind, body, and soul. You know, and so when you look at it in math, the square and the circle are both 360 degrees. Our body has 360 joints that move around the stones, the house, the stones. You know, biblically, these stones, the bones. This is physical creation. And so these match squaring the circle because this is the masculine and the feminine coming together, but they're one and the same. It's, you know, like electricity, it's a dual equal force. They have dual equal degrees. But then if you cut a square in half, you get a triangle. But that equilateral triangle on top, that has a 60 degree, 60 degree, 60 degree. That's 666. That is the mark of the beast. This is physical creation. It's all based upon this geometry and understanding. But the two triangles on each side, when you split that equilateral on top in half, you now take a 180 degree triangle and you create another two 180 degrees because all triangles are 180 degrees. So look, you created two from the one. You created something from nothing. Does that make sense alchemically?
That makes perfect sense.
And then when you split it down the middle, now you have a 90-degree angle. So you have, instead of 60, 60, 60, it becomes 30, 60, 90, or 369. The two tablets of Moses, the two strands of your DNA, the Ida, the Pingala, you know, this is the duality of man.
I told y'all we need to get Holy Trinity up here. Hey, look, man, let them cook. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the shit I love.
Hey,
Like,
you just got to shut me up whenever. But that's like the circle with the dot in the middle is a symbol for the aura, you know, in ancients. It's a symbol for the sun. It's the symbol for Ra. It's the symbol for spirit. It's the symbol for your eyeball, you know. And then if that's the center point, if you go to that max expanse, what's that called? It's the radius. Ra and Dios. You have Ra Egyptian, and then you have Dios, which is Spanish. Two words for deity. And so, how can half of that be a deity? It's because pies are squared, they're not circled. Ha ha ha, right? Pi r squared. This is how you figure out the circumference of the area. It's pi r squared. That is what pi is. Pi is the female. It's the area. This is why in all mythology you had Rhea, you had Rhea, Terra. What's the other one? I'm drawing a blank. They're always Ea. There's the Ea. That's the feminine, the space, because that's the space of creation, the womb of creation. And so that's the radius, the area, the Rhea. You see the area, the Rhea. That's that womb of creation. But Ra is if the sun's in the sky and it's straight above you, anything to the left or to the right of that is called right ascension meridian of the zenith. Right ascension meridian. So that backward, that is right ascension meridian, back is Ram. The ram's horn, the RAM in your brains, the RAM in your computer, random access memory. The computer is based upon the brain. The brain is based upon the science of the Hermetics, which could easily be argumented on where it came from, right? But we understand that it's alchemical is what I would call it, and that's the best way to call it. And like these are called magic transistors. They're called that because you're supposed to transist the magic that's here. Most people look in this and don't see anything, but when you look, you start to see things. And look at the angles of light and how they shine down, how they don't come exactly how they say they do, right? That sun is ricocheting off of the moon, which is then coming to Earth. Well, what the F is that? Is that ricocheting off of? That's not there for just some shits and giggles, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah. Tell us more. Hey, look, I broke down this image yesterday, but feel free to feel free to give us your overview. Hey, look, this is what I've been trying to tell everybody. When y'all don't like, I be in the comments, other places listening, and I find people like Holy Trinity or Holy Trinity finds me. I find people like Mind and Soul or Mind and Soul finds me, and a few other individuals that be really in tune with like amazing wisdom. And I love to meet people where I could be quiet and just like learn some shit. And then like I can express the way that I see certain things and then feel free to be quiet and watch this individual express how they see it. And instead of me fighting, I'm listening to everything I can get from it. I take it, I put it all together in that unity shit that we've been talking about.
Yes.
And Slim,
But the best part about it is take what resonates and leave the rest. I don't
exactly.
expect anybody to agree with everything. My worst thing about this app is you could be my number one fan. The second you disagree with me, you drop me like a heartbeat. That ain't right because there's so many levels to this is why most mystics are lonely because the understanding and the deep thinking to understand this is more than sevenfold, right? These dimensions run deep. But let's get to this picture. So I'm gonna start with what would be the rose. This is the Rosicrucian, the rose to arise. To arise is the same anagram as Aries, right? The mind. Okay, so this is the rose. You have the serpent coming up the tree of life, or the rose, if you will. The spine. This is that Sophia, the feminine, the spirit that rises up and down the spine. But then we'll go to the sun at the top. You'll notice how it reflects. Well, the sun we see in the sky is not the true sun. It's not source light. It's
Mm,
coming from somewhere else. That's why it's refracted. This is why nobody can agree about if it's tilted, the sky's tilted or not. Why do we have these different poles if we didn't have different poles from somewhere else in the cosmos? Okay. And so there's some sort of source light coming, which is then refracting because what do they say? The moon gets its light from the sun. So
right.
what is that disk if it's not the sun disk? The sun disk is then giving energy to the moon, which is then giving energy to Earth. Earth it then gives it back. It's called entropy in science. But alchemically, you'll notice this angle that it's coming down If most alchemical art, if they're holding a staff, a cane, a sword, they're always holding at this angle because it's the angle that the sky is tilted 23.4 degrees, and it matches our geography the same as it matches in the sky. That's why there's a tropic of Capricorn and a tropic of Cancer in the sky, the same as there is on Earth. And just like I said a second ago, Cancer. Why is it Cancer? What? Why? Why? That's the crab. That's as far north as it goes. That's the ruler. That's the mother. It's the fourth sign. Four is completion. Then it goes down to Capricorn. Well, what's that? That's 10. That's, we have 10 fingers, 10 toes. This 10 is the physical realm, but it's Capricorn. It's Saturn. Saturn's physical. But you know what I mean? Everything that is light that is seen comes from something that is unseen. So the sun in the sky that we see is seen, but it's coming from something unseen. And whether that's the black hole sun, or maybe that's a different sun that maybe we call it Sirius, hell, or Orion, I'm not sure yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. But that's my representation. Is you'll see how that, and you'll see how the moonlight shines through the serpent. This is why I said it's female. I wouldn't know any different, but it's coming from the moon. If the moon is female, and that Kundalini Sophia, it wants to reach the mind, or at least the heart, right? But I think it's a rose. I don't know what it is exactly, but I won't even get into the planets or how the water looks to be perfectly level in the background. But you see what I'm saying?
So I think it could be a rose, it could be a tulip, it could be a
But
lotus.
yeah, yeah.
I don't think the specific. I mean, maybe you never know. Sometimes the specifics do really matter, but I think it's like the unfolding that like is like what is represented, like the unfolding of consciousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but to see, like, even the picture, the person, how they're depicted holding that disc inside of that, there's a representation, and that's probably astrological, right? Like, this energy flow, the lights in the sky are energy flowing, in my opinion. Like, the true light that we see, that we get to our firmament, it comes from a star system. Whether that's Orion or Sirius, I'm not sure, but it's not, something has to power the grid of the system if the clock is turning and the gears are moving. So it's interesting. Is it Virgo? Does it come through Virgo? Maybe. But everything alchemically, I think
Would
there,
be crazy. That would be
lots of
very. That would be interesting, like coming through Virgo, like the Virgin, and then the Sun.
yeah. And that's Virgo is the biggest constellation of the ecliptic.
I mean, that would tell every story that we've ever heard in that sense, like the Virgin and like the Mother and the Son, the Virgin and the you know
Yeah, yeah. Immaculate Conception.
yeah.
Because that's supposedly where the Christos oil forms. It's in Bethlehem, which is Virgin Mary, which is Virgo. Virgo rules the belly. The belly is the solar plexus. That's where the Christos oil seed supposedly forms alchemically, and that's where, when the sun and the moon, those oil, the secretions from the pineal and the pituitary, Ida Pingala, when they meet in the stomach and it's not burned up by acid or impurities, it
Mm.
forms what they call an alchemy. It's a psychophysical germ, and that psychophysical germ is what can heal you within by prayer and fasting.
In the first book that so we read in two books right now, and in the first book that we're reading, the Picker Tricks, right? It uses. We only made it to let me see. We only made it to the fourth chapter so far, You know what I'm saying? Because we're jumping back and forth because they kind of go with different energies. Like the Picatrix and is more so moon shit, and then we jumped over to the Splendor Soulless, just because it's like the sun and the moon within the titles and the names, but the Splendor Soulless is more so about the whole thing. But the Picatrix, as of this at this moment, is about the moon. You know what I'm saying? Damn, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh yeah, so within it, it talks about purity. Like it
Hmm.
mentions the word purity at least 50 times. You know what I'm saying? Within the first 5 chapters.
Yeah, because there is something with the sexual. That's why it's called the genitals, the Genesis, the genes of Isis, and this is creation. If you use your godly energy for creation, you can make life, right? And this is where, if you learn to understand your astrology, your sun sign, moon sign, and when they connect with each other, this is when you're supposedly be allowed to do this, right? Through prayer, fasting, yoga, you know what I mean? Like all this stuff, breath work. And then you can actually move that oil up your spine faster. And then that brings in nitric oxide and mixes with the oxygen, and that is what supposedly fires up this energy in the spine.
We're gonna look at this word real quick.
But this is why you want to nose breathe and not mouth breathe.
Fucking mouth breathers.
Yep.
Skateboard's broke. Skateboard.
Skateboard.
But it's funny how it says that the seed drops down there, like from Bethlehem down to the Scorpio, which is the S2 joint of the sacrum. That's where your CFS stops and turns around and it goes, I think, back up, right? And so that is the tomb. That is the tomb Jesus is in for those 3 days. And this is that oil that floats back up because it's oil floats on water. Water's emotion. When you can control all these things and all your emotion, that supposed oil will float back up your spine, and that's what's supposed to we're supposed to be able to get to that to where it can reach the pineal gland. Like there's a reason, like kundalini is great and all, but like what is it? There has to be something that makes these changes within us and heals us.
Hey man, you're cooking right now. I ain't gonna lie to you. Immaculate
but
conception.
but yeah, I mean, think about, yeah, like if that's true, if that falls down to Scorpio and it's protected by Scorpio, what it's Scorpion. Like there's something to that, probably etymology if you break it down, but the ion part, the opposite of that is Orion. That's his equal partner, right? And that's the dance. That's also goes back. It's been a lot of people. It's been Osiris. It's been like Ishtar, or Gavaki. All these different people through history. I think it was Shakti. Anyways, long story short, like all these things have a purpose. So when you look at Scorpio in the sky, at the edge of the stinger of the scorpion is the center of our entire galaxy. The spiral starts at the edge of the stinger and the tip of the arrow of Sagittarius, and just below the foot of Ophiuchus, which is, or right above the ecliptic. So isn't there a reason, like all these different like movies and all these different things that we talk about Krishna being nailed to, shot to a tree with a bow and arrow, Odin shot to a tree with a bow and arrow, like all these different, but like the bow and arrow story, there's so much to it. As above, so below; as within, so without. And I truly believe that.
Every and so every story is the same because everybody was trying to figure out the same thing.
Yeah, but and so and we got to realize back in the day, like children's stories and all these different things, like they gave names to the stars to teach their children young, and then the older you got, that's where like the oldest religions were really about. It was about higher understanding. You know what I mean? So like we used to teach this stuff in mythology, but it was an understanding, and then at some point in the dark ages all that mythology got lost and wisdom got lost, and all these stories just turned into stories, or these false Disney tales, but they always have these hidden meanings in all of them, right?
Yeah, the original meaning has to stay there somewhere, no matter what they do to it, because it pretty much is the base. It's the base of the story. Whether it's towards the end, the middle, or the beginning, there's some
Yeah,
kind of truth that stays within it. However, there had to be, I feel like there was a time where extremely wise individuals went around trying to give this information to everybody, and they had to dumb it down, and then in the process of dumbing it down, it stayed dumb.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then there's some people that get it for what it is, and some people that take it for how it was given to them.
Right. I don't know if you heard my live today, but I read a paper in the Library of Congress that was talking about Central America and South America, and all the temples and pyramids and altars that were there that were so ancient. But oh fuck, was I getting that? Um oh, it talked about how the thing about it had a lot of like Roman Gothic architecture. But the thing about them is they weren't worshiping Isis. They were worshiping the mother of Isis, which proves that this land came before a land anywhere else, because it was whoever the mother of Isis is, which I can't remember, like the mother god, or maybe it's Mother Earth. I'm not sure what it is, but they worshipped her. They didn't worship like Horus, Isis, and Osiris. They worshipped something completely different.
My fault. I'm muting up. So
There
you're
you go.
talking. But shit, who is the mother of ISIS?
Mm. Uh, Ganut, maybe. I'm not sure. So, like in Ishtar, the mother of Ishtar was the moon goddess Sin. So it's probably another name for. I mean, I don't know if it'd be Tahuti. I'm not sure I'm not sure, honestly.
Big C says newt or nut.
Okay, that would make sense.
Oh yeah, indeed.
Which I think they call, between Nut, and then they call, like, then you have the Netters, right? Like these demigods of creation. But like, look at that name, it's another, nature. It's just a different and different version of saying nature, in my opinion.
Hell yeah, everybody. What we getting back to? We getting back to nature. That's what this whole shit has been about. So I guess it only makes sense that we find ourselves here again, right? We find ourselves right back to nature, and that's where we're gonna keep finding ourselves because we're on the right path. We're on the right journey. Shout out to everybody that's here. Witnessing us continuously finding ourselves right back to nature, where we were supposed to be in the beginning, and where they keep trying to take us away from. This is the reason why people are sick and suffering, because they've successfully made everybody turn their backs on nature and look towards a system that's hell bent on destroying everybody. Well, well, well. How do you feel about that book we were reading? Were you in here, or did you probably miss a lot of it because you said you're at work?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of it. No, I like it. You know what I mean? That Philosopher's Stone is I don't know. I think it's more metaphysical than it is like they mixed something together and they made this magical potion. I think it's more metaphysical understandings, but I could be wrong there. Um, but I think it's really interesting on the periodic table. Gold is 79, Mercury's 80. Like there's something about that connection, and it happens to be the first planet to the sun, which is gold. Like there's definitely a deep understanding about that.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was getting into when I'm talking, and as I was reading before we got into to like real deep into the actual conversation. I'm letting everybody know, like, despite what they're saying in this book, because they're talking about like regular things, they're talking about like food for animals, and they're talking about different stones, but they also say like some of the like. Let me see if I can find where it was saying that. But I'm telling them that like this is more so something that we're doing within ourselves instead of outside of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But it does talk about nature and how nature creates certain things and how nature allows us to use these things to create other things, right? So in a sense, alchemy is just it's a way to create, and it is a way to create, but when it comes to the way that I see it, and obviously the way that you see it, based on what you just said, this is more so. This is less about like completely a physical thing. It's more so like esoteric information about how to purify yourself within.
Right. Yeah.
That's how I see it. Everywhere I look, that's what it shows me.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it is on, and I can't remember what projection of map it was on, but it talked about the sun doesn't go any further than 79 degrees. The furthest you can see sunlight south is 79 degrees south, like parallel or meridian, whatever the hell they call that. But isn't that crazy that, if gold really is like the 79th element, it only goes 79 degrees south. That can be physically seen. Like all this stuff is there for a reason, and it's in an order for a reason.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that's the thing. I think they've really they've really been making us think real surface level for so long, but there's so much depth to things that matter.
Right.
But the thing about it, but the thing about all this really deep information is if you give it enough time and you really pay attention, you'll see that it's all connected. So once you really get the hang of a little bit of it, the more you search, it becomes easy. Like I don't want to say easy, but you kind of train your mind to put these things together in the sense of like I know there's a connection. I just have to find it because it does exist.
Yeah. Yeah, just like the Great Pyramid, there's a reason why it doesn't have a capstone. It's not supposed to. You're supposed to figure out there's a capstone there's to be found, right? And what I mean by that is that when it talks biblically about a chief cornerstone, well, a cornerstone is a 90-degree outside angle that sets the foundation of your building. This is what master builders are masons, everything go. That's what they go to learn about, and those are called cornerstones. But a chief cornerstone is the tiny apex pyramidion on the very very top, and so by leaving that flat, that's a triangle that goes there. When you put that there and you draw a perfect circle that matches the phi ratio around that around the Great Pyramid, it's the circumference of this entire Earth It's the equilateral distance. It's all these different numbers that are built in, and in different, like in metrics, feet, cubits, all these different ways. But that point where that triangle would meet in the middle of that circle, that is what's called the philosopher's stone. That is the apex of creation. That's like that separation for mind and spirit above you, or the prana above you. But there's something to the point, that triangle, that pyramidion, and understanding the mathematics. But there's something to that in creation, that spark of creation, the mathematics behind it, and then the alchemical aspect behind it.
Crazy because I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like what you're telling me is like that the top exists, but it'll never be it's not meant to be a physical top. It's meant to be like once you recognize what's really taking place, then you know that it's already there.
And it was built for all generations, because all generations eventually will understand math first. And so it has all the mathematics built in. And so that was the one great structure that they took the time. That's God's representation on earth, because when you understand all of the mathematics and how that's in everything, the basis of everything, the mathematics, it proves a creation, in my opinion, because we grow as nature, we form as nature, all these different things that come back and forth. It's amazing how they always add up time and time again.
In the in the demonology of King James I was reading, that's when I realized astronomy comes from asteron and nomos, which means the law of the stars, but they called it one of the most necessary mathematics. And then when I
Right.
started,
Yeah.
and then when I started getting into this pick and tricks and all this shit, I was like, oh my goodness. You know what I'm saying? The mathematics that it takes to actually track these planets and these moons and everything, it is divine. It
Yeah,
is.
that's what I think star forts were. I think star forts were originally astronomical, like, observatories.
That's what I think a lot of these temples are. Like the temples they're finding in South America and North America and all that. I
Yeah.
I I believe wholeheartedly that, you know, as time went by, people started using them for sacrifices and all this weird ass shit. But I know everything in my spirit is telling me like, yo, these were observatories. These were observatories, and the things they built around it were just them figuring out things in the sky, and then however perfect they can connect that shit, they built around this observatory based on the things that they were observing or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, but they weren't just fucking building these things so that they could sacrifice people. That would be foolishness.
Yeah, we were talking about that today too, a little bit, or at least I was trying to. That how, like the Aztecs, when the wisdom was lost, like then you get, that's where, like, if the Phoenician wisdom was lost, right? Or let's call it Phoenician, whoever was here that had, Atlantean, whatever it was, when that wisdom was lost, and then you have somebody like the Aztecs, during an eclipse they had sacrifice, and then at that they took out the heart, when all reality it's a mystical understanding where the sun and the moon are coming together, the mind and the heart are supposed to come together. But in that lost translation, it turned into human sacrifice through, if I do this, then that, I'll prosper, I'll get more riches, I'll get to still live, all these, land will come back, all these different things. But it was all based upon an ancient mystic understanding, that was far lost and gone.
I was just having this conversation earlier, and I was expressing like how those with wisdom would see, like, let's say for instance, I actually talked about it a few times. Like say it would be like sacrifice a cow. Now, earthly individuals will actually sacrifice a cow, but those with a higher understanding of these things would realize like what a cow represents in an esoteric sense, and then they'll
Right.
realize you're sacrificing what that means within you, but not the actual animal.
Exactly. The cow representing the physical flesh. You're shedding your lower self.
Exactly.
By it. That's what I think Serpent's Mount is. That's a snake shedding its skin, and that's what we do. We shed our skin as the more we evolve, and the more we enlighten, we're shedding skins. And then that's it's metaphysical. We don't literally shed skins, but we're metaphysically shedding our old selves, our old understandings, our old thinkings, because how many times have you said, I know this and I know that, and now you laugh at, and you teach other people they're wrong when you think the same thing.
Exactly. I hear you. That kind of goes into the magnum opus, man. That goes into the great work, Negredo. Like that's the stage where you shed all these things, and it happens over and over. The only difference is some people stay stuck in that stage of life and they don't move on. Though some people make it through that stage and they find themselves back in it because life is forever changing and you're forever growing, right? And the skin of the shedding of the skin, we were talking about it earlier, like you got to let go of all these things that don't serve you, da 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 da. You like collect all these things throughout your life based on different experiences, and then you get to a point where you're like, okay, wait, let me slow down for a second. Let me get rid of all these things that don't serve me, all these things that are unnecessary, unrighteous, whatever the case may be. And then once you do that, you're able to grow into a new version of yourself. Obviously life experience are going to happen again and you're going to do it again. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the better you are, the easier it is to let go of things, the easier it is to notice these things before they even happen, right? The easier it is to know that you're about to hold on to something that doesn't belong to you and you can let that shit go. All these things are baggage, right? These are the things that weigh heavy on your consciousness, which is your heart. Your heart weighed with the feather, blah 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 blah. You got to let these things go. And the more you let them go, the more you train yourself, and then the easier it is to let these things go in time as time goes by.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I heard, I don't know who I heard it from, but it said, a man who tells you what something is only is a fool who hasn't continued reading to understand. Because there's different levels of perception.
No, that's true. You know, I know people that, like, for me, for instance, shit. I was raised as a Christian. You know what I'm saying? I took my shahada, became a Muslim. Then I started studying more science. Then I got real deep into like history and all this other shit, this Indian business that I be on. And one thing I notice is like when people see that you've gone through all these stages, they kind of try to like they'll kind of judge you, like, oh man, you used to be this and you used to do this, and it's like, well, yeah, I lived my life and I experienced things, and then I learned and I grew. You can't really judge
Exactly. Yeah.
you can't judge an individual for whatever um system they might have found themselves in. They experienced life however they experienced it. That it's crazy to be like, well, 5 years ago you believed in this. Well, nigga, I grew. Like, what do you like? What do you
Right.
want a person to, what do you want an individual to say when you judge them for growing? Is the weirdest thing, but I see it happen all the time. Like, oh, this dude used to be this dude used to be whatever whatever any
But
individual
see,
can be.
all those things are all just mistranslations, right? They've been turned into Ra's religion or legion. It's just an ancient understanding of priesthood that goes back as far as Egypt, and that's all it is. is that it's still kind of like the pharaohs versus the wealthy, and that's what it is today, right? Except pharaohs, it's people of wisdom and higher knowledge, because they're still, these are what the elite families who took over by using business, science, math, where they were used to be shunned and burned at the stake as heresy, right? That deeper understanding. This is why they had to go into hiding, because it was the church wanted to rule. But if people knew that you didn't need to go to the church, that the kingdom of God lies within, who needs the church, right? And so the now still today, like when you talk about all these different people playing these big wig games, it's not left and right. They want us to be left and right, so we're going after each other. You're white, I'm black. You're a girl, I'm boy. You're gay, I'm straight. They want duality because they'll lie in the middle and they reap the rewards, and that's how they control us.
Was just having this conversation yesterday because somebody got on the panel, and it's no offense to this gentleman if he's here, but he got on the panel. He was talking about like who came first, woman or man, and all this stuff. And I was like, man, look, I feel like you get to a certain place where you realize that's not even a conversation, because all they do is you transcend above where you were. You get all this information and then you get stuck in another loop. And that's all they want you to do. Get stuck in duality loops where there's something to argue about. In reality, there's two different things, and their wholeness is what causes true ascension. They want us to stay away from wholeness, right? Like you said, they want me to see you and be like, oh man, that's a white dude. I ain't fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? But in reality,
Right.
we have this conversation, and your perspective and your life and what you've gone through, my perspective, my life, what I've gone through, these things need to come together, because that's how we find even more depth to the truth that we're looking for, right? All these different personalities and lifestyles and, experiences have to come together at some point. And then this is when shit gets really really divine, right?
That's their greatest threat, right? Like they play both sides to the middle. I mean, that's really what it is. It's the fight for America is just a fight for political votes mostly, but it's also for them to launder money, really. Because when they do all these programs are ran by entities, and these entities, just like it's always been. Used to be gangsters on the corners. Now these people are in business suits collecting their 20%. It's no different. It's the same thing, and that's why the more the more knowledge the better off you are. But it's the stuff is really deep. It's meant to be deep because it's meant to confuse everybody. But I think when you want to argue like who came first or what religion came first, I think the religions were teachings at a point, and then they turned into monetary control. And then once they found out the Americans had gold, American tribes had gold, the kingships had gold, you know, that was something that was worth something to them, which here it wasn't worth the same as what how they considered it. That's why the most of them didn't fight. They're planners. But it's a crazy story when you learn about it. It goes really deep. I mean, even the Moors. There's a reason why the Shriners are buried with the symbol of the Moor. Why would a Shriner, highest level masonry, be buried with the symbol of the Moor? You got to think about that.
So it's like they're holding on to divine wisdom and keeping us separate. But in
Right.
reality, all of us have a little piece of the puzzle. And if we came together with it, with all these different pieces of the puzzle, but but the thing is, I think what makes it so hard to like find the balance is that like how do you like I think it's hard to determine. It gets real hard, but I feel like you have to get to a level. You have to get to a level, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about you get to this level where your instincts are what matter. You get to a point where you really trust your instincts, and once you trust your instincts, then you deal with people according to who they are, not who an entirety is, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree completely. That you trust your gut, like going within. Um, and that's what I think. I think you're right. I think that is your gut is your first brain. When it, or your soul and is in your gut. Maybe that's what it is. But there's something about the gut, the purity of the gut that um, can feel that resonance.
It's crazy, huh? Like when you think about it, it's like all the places that you find parasites are in the different places that have been historically considered to be brains.
Right. Right.
Heart, your gut, your heart, and your brain. And they try to keep us full of those things. Nobody could think straight. But once you cleanse these different things, then you that brain fog goes away, and you start to realize, oh shit, they've been playing some goddamn tricks on us. You know what I mean?
Right.
They've
Yeah.
been playing some goddamn on tricks, right? I find myself in all kind of different arenas of wisdom, and it's just crazy because I'm like, yo, if I really lived in the fear and the separation that they created in totality, if I lived like that, I would miss out on so much. I would miss out on so much wisdom if I accepted the separation and the hatred that the world tries to like force on everybody. You know what I mean? I'd be in all kind of places, listening and learning, and
I mean, to be honest, that's why they didn't like the mystic, because the mystic was so open-minded. They didn't care if you were black, white, gay, straight. Not, they were, and that's why they were, really, really sought after. Not to say, you know what I mean, which teach their own. But you shouldn't be told what to do, right? But that's why these mystics were who they were. They were a more feminine group of dudes, but they were just open minded when it came to understanding, creation. That's actually why Kepler unalived Tycho Brahe and stole all his work. He was jealous of him.
jealousy is a powerful affliction. It's very powerful. You know what I mean? It be fucking people up left and right. There's so many people that I see that could work together. I feel like jealousy is the only reason why they don't. And when you stand on the outside looking in, you can see the potential of if certain individuals could come together, like what they could accomplish. But it's what like jealousy, envy, and I guess some kind of egotistical mindset that fucks people up and keeps them from their true greatness. A lot of people think you can do it on like, oh, I could do everything on my own and nobody can help me. But it's like, man, if only you knew. If only you knew what you could do if you were open minded. I mean, like
100%. Yeah.
a lot of the shit that I've been able to put together is because I am open minded and I go places and I listen and I learn and I talk to different people. Now I've found I don't know, man. I've found some wisdom that I've come across wisdom that, and it's not that I wouldn't maybe, obviously I probably could possibly in time find it on my own, but Like for instance, Badu in the comments. If I was talking to Badu, she has her own interest, but
Right.
I've realized that everything's connected. So through me conversing with her long enough, her interest and my interest will meet somewhere, and then
Right.
that's enlightenment.
Yeah,
You
no, I agree. I mean, because it's like when you hear universal truth, it resonates in your gut, and we all know this, right? Take what resonates and leave the rest. That's what that means. Is that not like everybody's on the same journey as you, but they might have a piece of the puzzle. So like everything that, like, when you talk about actual tribe names, right, and heritage, that's all stuff I know to be true from what I've read, right? But to understand the names, where things came from, that's a whole different ball game, because that's a lineage of information I've never been privy to. I know it to be true 1,000% from everything that I've read, but like, look at that level of understanding that, like, it take me 30 years to learn. I don't have that, you know what I mean? So that's why I do these apps. This is why I think it's important. Do I want to sit around talking on my phone for 2 hours? No, I don't all the time. But it's important. It's important to come together. Even that's why you said a select few there, because unfortunately, not too many people are ready to hear it. Especially from certain people, but then they don't want to hear certain things, whether they're still in the church or they heard something from one of these guys on TV that they say they know everything, but they just give them a little piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I seen a lot of the little piece of the puzzle shit going on, like, and that's how you enslave people's minds and their will and everything, by like
Right, right.
feeding them little pieces, knowing that you have the whole pie, but I'm gonna feed you little pieces, but
Exactly.
I'll never feed you enough for you to have your own pie. I'll only feed you enough for you to keep wanting more of what I got. I see a lot of that shit going on too.
That's what the church does. They're built on sacred geometry. That's why sound resonates. When you go in there, you feel a resonant in your chest. You think is called the Holy Spirit, but it's based on how it was built, how the elders built, especially cathedrals and organs. These are built for you to understand the energies that are within you, right? When you go in there, you feel it, and then at some point they said, "Nope, that's God. You got to give me 10% and be on your way."
Facts. And we're only gonna read 7 chapters out of this 12
Yeah, I mean, I grew up
page.
Catholic, and so you didn't talk about it openly. They told you a story that they thought related to their life, and then it was take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like that's just like a story you are relating to. Like, you're not explaining anything. I always had a problem with that. Like, this doesn't make sense whatsoever.
It'll be the same damn stories every year. That's the real issue. It's like, God dang, when are we gonna make it past these same 5 stories? When are we gonna start getting some real? When are we gonna like the amount of times people go to church, but only like 2% of them have read the entire Bible, and it's like, you've been to church for 4 years, and you telling me y'all haven't read the entire book that y'all base your religion on?
Right.
Y'all should do that. Y'all should be able to do that shit. They should be reading the entire Bible at least once a year. But
But they all got it made where they don't have to pay for nothing, right? They get to do this and get to do that and control all this money. And to show, that's what it really comes down to, is money. That's why there's so many churches, because all the old corporations turned into churches or church denominations in order for control, right? It was all, they wanted somebody a Catholic versus the common Christian, or Judaism or Muslim. All the they turn these into form. That's the three-headed beast of control, are the three main religions.
damn beast.
Because what's crazy is the symbol for Islam was the original flag of Constantinople, which is where Constantine started Christianity. So how is his flag of Islam the same? You know, it makes no sense. How is that the same? Now, what we call Islam was the original flag of Constantinople, which is what we call now today Istanbul, which is where they say Noah's Ark is buried in the mountains. All these things, are they coincidences, or are they all part of a made-up story or higher understanding? I don't know, but I find it very weird.
Yeah, I kind of heard you getting into that earlier.
Yeah. I mean, that's most people don't know capital of Rome was Constantinople, and their flag was the crescent and the 5-pointed star with the Egyptian face in the middle. That is the star of the Shriner.
And there was somebody trying to get up on the panel. I guess I didn't let them up in time, so they left the whole live. I know I need to block them. I shall block them when I get out of here. Hey, look, I'm that kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? God dang, because what do you only hear to like? You don't fuck with me unless you can speak. I don't know, man. I think it is what it is. I just need to slide it sometimes, but maybe that's just something I need to deal with. Hey, but look, man, I gotta children are waking up. I gotta get them together. They're gonna start running around. They already making a goddamn mess. But
all right, buddy.
You gotta do this shit again, man.
Yeah,